We got Jim Pope up here going to show us some of the things that he has done with resin. Let's give him a big hand. Hang on, I got to get you a mic.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Good. Good morning. Back in January when the board decided to send out notices asking for input on what kind of demos to give, I sent back a response that have you done anything with resin casting? And they said, well, it's been a while since we've done that, so how about you giving something like that? Well, guess what? Well, what do you say? You don't say no. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. I've been resin casting probably for about, I'd say 5-6 years. Started out small with pens, of course, pen blanks. Those are always easy things to do. Then graduated up to some bigger stuff and so forth. So I don't know, do you have that, the USB drive in there? There's just a couple of, 2 or 3 photographs on it. Okay. We'll get into those in a minute, but anyway, how many other people do resin casting in this group? Oh, there are a few. Okay. So you might know a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about today. A lot of different types of ways to do it. There's a lot of different types of resins basically out there on the market. You can buy several through the internet, buy some here at Woodcraft. I've used mostly Alumilite products only because that's what I started with. That's kind of stuck with. I've used both the slow, the Alumilite slow, clear slow. The Alumilite clear resin, I started using that recently because it's got a shorter working period, and I'll explain that in a minute. Then I also use the deep pour, Alumilite deep pour, which I have to use in order to make something as big as this right here. Some of the smaller things, plates, things like that, I can use the regular Alumilite on that, like this one here. I've basically got a piece of Claro walnut rootstock when I was living in Las Vegas, and I took that and I put it into a mold similar to this, only it was a little larger size. These are, you know what these are? These are those concrete pillars you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, and I just cut them to my size, and then I'll take and I'll put them on a base, and that's what I use as a mold. I actually put it on a disc sander to flatten it out. I mean, you can use a bandsaw. If you have a big enough bandsaw, you can cut it fairly well on a bandsaw. My bandsaw is a 10-inch. I can't do it. So I actually, believe it or not, I cut it on my table saw by rotating the thing, using my fence to kind of keep it as flat as I can, but then I still have to put it on a disc sander to flatten that base. And it's important to do that because you don't want it leaking all over the place, and I'll explain that in a bit. But this particular plate, I use the Alumilite slow, clear slow, because it's a shallow casting. So you can mix it up and, you know, get it going without too much fuss, put it in a pressure pot, and go from there, let it go. This one here, I did a couple years ago, but I'll just pass it around. It's just a simple plate. Oh, we can't open it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all right. I had a couple of photographs of other ones I did, bowls that I've either given away or left. When I was in Las Vegas, I worked part-time at Woodcraft there, and so I made them a bowl similar to this one here, the big one, and they had that on display, so I just wanted to show some of those photographs. But anyway, when you're talking about the mold materials, silicone, everyone knows about silicone molds. You just buy them. I bought this one at Woodcraft. Easy, it's like an ice cube tray. Once you get the thing poured in there, you just kind of twist it, and you can usually work the finished piece loose. But I've gone to using HDPE, which is high density polyethylene material. I buy it online, and then I make my own molds. I made my own, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. All right. So I just, geez. So anyway, this is what it looks like. This is a, this is, this is a 4-inch wide by 5-inch long mold that I put together. Just screws together with screws on the ends here. One thing with these, when I make them, I seal them with hot melt glue on the inside. And I also do it on the outside just to be on the safe side because I've had them leak on me. Once I pour the resin in there, I've actually had them leak. So I'm a little leery about it. That's why I have a glue gun. And it's real handy to make sure that you seal those seams very well so you don't end up with a mess. And once this stuff starts coming out, unless it sets up fast, you're going to have a mess. What I usually do for bowls, when I get into bowls, you can do something as simple as buying a set of cheap nesting plastic bowls like I did at Walmart one time, and just use these. For these, I was actually used to make this particular bowl with pine cones in it. And all I did was
Does the resin just pop out of those bowls, or do you have to use something?
I sprayed it before. I sprayed it with mold release, which is this right here. I sprayed it with mold release, and then I put the pine cones in it, okay? And put these right on top of the pine cones and secured it with tape. That's a simple way of doing it. And it turns out fairly well. I try to organize it the best I can. And but to make some of the larger bowls, and those are the ones I had some photographs of. This one here, very similar to this. I start out with a piece of wood, a block of wood about 2 inches thick, turning stock. This one was spalted tamarind. Now, because the spalted tamarind is somewhat soft, I have to stabilize the wood first. So I put it in my stabilizer and get that done. And then once I get that wood stabilized, I will then take and make the mold for it, which is right here. I just buy this, what's called dry erase board material, about 1/4 inch thick. And I just buy it at like Lowe's or Home Depot, someplace like that. Cut it to my size. Cut one of these pieces off of it. And I'll secure it with hot melt glue on the inside and on the outside. And then, of course, I will secure the bottom of this with a little hot melt glue to hold it in place. I turn the wood ahead of time because it makes it easy for me. How you do it would be up to you, of whatever's comfortable for you. Whether you do a mortise or tenon. I like to use a tenon, and then what I do is I end up planing the tenon away later on when I finish the bottom. And that's just the way I do it. And I cover it with tape. I use that frog tape. This is for delicate surfaces. And that's just to kind of protect it from the resin so I can actually peel this off later. It doesn't come off real easily all the time, but it can come off. And then if I have to turn some of it off, I can. But the reason I do that is I actually turn the wood into a little bit of a tenon first so I can mount it on my scroll chuck. And it's just a simple way that I decided that works for me, that's all. So however you want to do it, that's up to you. And of course I left some of the wood exposed here, so that's where the resin's going to really adhere to that and create that connection. Putting that down the center and doing the pine cones, I often have to cut the pine cones on each side to make them thin so I can squeeze them down into the side recesses here using different, I don't know, I just kind of put them in different places, try to make them as even as I can, and then when you pour the resin in, they're going to start to float a little bit, and I use a barbecue skewer to kind of try to position them the best I can. And then, of course, secure this with tape across the top here. If you spray this with a little bit of a mold release on the outside, that will just pop right out of it as well. But you want to make sure that sticks in there. But this is the bowl that I end up making with this. Here, let's just start over here. It's kind of heavy. It's a beefy piece. One thing I learned about
Glued it all down.
resin, if you can make the walls thinner, and there's
I have a
nothing wrong
question.
with.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody wants to know, how do you keep that plastic cup from floating up when you pour your resin in there? You put a weight on
I
top?
put masking tape over top.
Okay, to hold it
Over
down.
over the whole mold, masking tape across, and then across one more time, and then kind of make it in a quarter, so it just kind of secures everything right there.
Another question, what speed of epoxy did you use? How many hour epoxy did you use when you made that bowl?
When I made the big one, that's deep pour.
Okay,
The same thing with the other pine cone bowl out there. I made that with deep pour. That's Aluminite deep pour. Aluminite has about a 60 minute or sometimes 90 minute, depending on your temperature, working time. So it's a slow curing epoxy. And because it's an epoxy, you have to mix it. The instructions say 2 to 1. You mix 2 parts of A to 1 part of B. And you got to be very careful when you're mixing epoxy to make sure you get those proportions right. When you're using something like Aluminite for like pen blanks or something you're doing quickly, those are a urethane-based epoxy. So those you have to take and measure them by weight. And that's why I have a little kitchen scale here for that. You measure those by weight. I use grams because it's more precise than ounces on this scale. So there's a difference in the different types of epoxy or resins. The epoxies do it by volume mostly. The urethanes are by weight. So important to get the proportions correct. Otherwise, you'll end up with something either too soft or too brittle. Sometimes if you over harden an epoxy, I've seen them crack. And you'll get what they call thermal cracks because they heat up. The epoxies all heat up. I'll point that out when I do my little mixture here. They tend to get warm. Some of them get warmer than others. The Aluminite, they said, is really pretty, doesn't get real hot. Especially the deep pour doesn't get real hot. But part of the importance of the heat generated in the epoxy or the urethane is that it allows you to then get your swirls in the mixture. Once it gets up to about 100, 104 degrees, somewhere in there, it thickens up enough that you get defined swirls in your mixture. If you do it too early, then all you're doing is blending the different colors. So that's some of the things to keep in mind. I have several pens up here I've done earlier that I do a lot of hybrid stuff, so you'll find that out. Some have pine cones in them. Some have, this is black walnut shells, and this is just red mallee burl in here. So, you feel free to pass these around if you want to look at them, and that's fine.
So Jim, with the bigger bowl that's going around, was that one color or 2 colors?
Actually about 4 colors. Really? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of that purple, I use a predominant color for the main thing like that. A lot of it's a kind of a deep, I think it was called Blue Violet Lux, which is black diamond was the main one. And then I included in there some what they call silver pearl right here. And I put in some Venice blue as well in there. And I can't remember whether I added the little ocean blue, which is a little dye.
So did you pour those all at the same time, or did you pour them in stages?
No, I mixed them all up first, and then I'll put the main one in, and then I'll try to add some different things. Sometimes I'll pour 2 in at once. With that particular big bowl, I actually mixed up a larger batch of some of the different colors. So that way, you can see down at the bottom of that big bowl, there's a slight white ring, which is this right here. Because I put a little of that on the bottom and it kind of created a defined ring there. It's however it turns out. I mean, this is a crapshoot. When you're doing it, you're just trying to figure out exactly what you think you want it to look like, and when it comes out, maybe not quite exactly what you want it to look like, but it does. Yeah. And some of it's, I don't think it's all objectionable. It's really pretty interesting stuff. I love doing it, but it is time consuming, and it's also messy. It's very messy. Turning resin is a lot messier in my mind than turning wood. And if you have a good dust collection system, it's a great idea to use it, which I don't have that. So I'm cleaning up a mess in my basement all the time. But it is messy. And yeah.
Bad odors also?
I don't have a lot of odor with it. The Alumilite products don't seem to put out a lot of odor. There may be some epoxies. You do get a strong odor when you add the hardener to it. There are some that are that way, and in that case, I'd probably use a respirator or something. The Alumilite, I've not had that problem. Now I'm going to try some other items, other materials, and see what that turns out to be. Yes.
Another question back
Yes.
there.
How do you measure your volume of how much resin you need to put in that?
How do you measure the volume of?
You mean how to determine the volume?
There you go.
Okay, I have some handouts up here. I only have about 10 or 11 copies, so if you need it, I can always send these are Word documents. I can send them to
Send them to
Doug,
Dave,
and he can distribute them to you. But I have some tips here. One is the first one says avoid common mistakes with resin. Gives you some tips there. Another one is tips for using Alumilite, which is what I use a lot. And it gives you some calculations at the bottom. But for doing a bowl of this size, I created an Excel spreadsheet that basically does all the calculations for you. If you take your radius, which is basically your diameter cut in half or divided by 2, that's your radius. And then you take that radius and you square it or multiply it times itself, and then multiply that times the value of pi, which is just a constant. It's 3.146 basically. And that gives you and then you take the height and multiply it times the height you want the pour, and it gives you the cubic inches. Then once you come down to the cubic inches to calculate the ounces, you multiply the total cubic inches by 0.554, gives you the total ounces, which is, in the case of, this is the one calculation for that pine cone bowl, the rounded bottom one like this, from this, yes. That's a calculation for this bowl, which turns out to be about, this bowl right here turns out to be about 124 ounces. Well, no, wait a minute, that's not right. That one came out to about 64 ounces, excuse me. 64 ounces, which then you have to divide that by part A and part B. And since that was a deep pour, part A takes 2 parts and part B takes 1 part. So you have to divide it by 3 and then calculate it from there. And that's how you come up with your. Yep.
Sometimes like when you did the smaller bowl,
Right.
you know where you put one bowl on top of the other? If you buy a 5-pound bag of rice, fill it up, don't put your pine cones in, but fill it up with rice, and then pour that into a measured cup and tell you kind of about.
That's another way to do it. I've heard of people doing it that way.
Because the pine cones get all the rice sticks inside.
Yeah.
So you don't put the cones in,
Right. Yeah. And that's another simple way to do it.
because you don't want to end up short. You gotta mix a quick batch while the other one's in there.
Right. And I've done that before. End up short.
Can you repeat that for the folks on the internet? I'm sorry. Well, I was gonna say, I wondered if you, like, through experience, you know, okay, that's 64 ounces or whatever.
Yeah. No. What he's saying is, you can also pour rice into the mold without the pine cones and all that. Pour rice in, it gives you pretty accurate volume calculation when you put it on a scale and measure it. So, a couple ways to do it. Like I said, there's different ways to do all this stuff. What I'm saying is just what works for me. So I'm not making any pretense that this is the right way or the wrong way. Do it. Anyway, any questions other than that? Yes. This one here? Oh, this one? Yeah, what I did was in this worksheet I created, you have to calculate the amount of volume you're displacing too, right here. So actually, when you calculate this out, it actually calculates in the amount you're displacing, this Excel spreadsheet. And that's why I find it simple for me. And like I said, I just put it on Excel and put the numbers in and it calculates it. Because if you look at Alumilite has a volume calculator online. You can go to that and try to do it. I found it confusing when it came to round molds. And so I came up with my own method. Square ones work great. It's the width times the length times the depth. And you come up with that, and it gives you the number of the cubic inches, which one of these, this is 4 by 5, it comes to 20 cubic inches. And then you multiply that times 0.554, gives you the total ounces, which is a little over 11 ounces, just over 11. But I always convert to grams because I think I can get better measurements with grams. And I then multiply that times, I think it's 28 point something or other. I'd have to go back and look at the number to convert the ounces to grams. And then I use grams on the scale to measure. And so for a pen blank for this particular size, and I usually put some pine cones or walnut shells or something in there, I usually end up with about 157 grams of part A and 157 grams of part B in this particular mold. And it's just the way it works for me, because these are the Alumilite urethane resins, like the Clear Slow and the regular Alumilite clear casting resin. You do a 1-to-1 measurement. You go to deep pour, and some of these epoxies, there's a difference between the urethane and the epoxies. You go to the epoxies, you're looking at a 2-to-1 measurement mostly, 2 of part A, 1 of part B. So those are the important things there to remember. And do not think that if you go a little bit over on the hardener or something that it's okay, because you will end up having probably thermal cracks or something in it later on that are not going to work well for you. So any other questions there? Yes. Bubbles, I put mine in a pressure pot. So I basically eliminate the bubbles using a pressure pot, and I take it up to about 60 psi. As soon as I cast it, I put it in a pressure pot. Right, right. Some people don't, if you're using the slow stuff, if you're using clear, like Alumilite deep pour, or some of the really slow setting things like 60 minutes, 90 minutes, it has time to allow the bubbles to come up a little bit and get out of there. Sometimes you can use a little heat gun or something to pop them on the surface. But some of them, I know one online called Epodex says that theirs eliminates bubbles quickly. And when you're doing something that slowly, it's a good idea to try to stir it slower so you minimize the bubbles. And that way, if you're not going to have a pressure pot, just try to minimize the bubbles and let them escape on their in a natural way. You just can't do that though with a fast setting resin. That's why you have to have a pressure pot for a fast setting resin. Some people ask me, can I use a vacuum chamber? Slow stuff, you could probably use a vacuum chamber. But the fast setting stuff that starts to set up in 7 minutes or 12 minutes, vacuum chamber is not going to work fast enough for you. You need the pressure pot, I think, for that. So, any other questions there? Yes, Ron?
Is there still an issue with wood moisture?
Yes, and that's spelled out in my little handout here. Wood moisture causes little white bubbles and some other problems on your stuff. If you have wood that's not dry, it's going to create a problem for you in your final casting. It'll show up, and it'll show up in your turning as well. Things I laid out in this stuff should answer most of your questions. Feel free to take one if you can, and I'll send the rest of it to Doug, and he can disseminate it. But I have done that before where I used wet wood, not wet wood, but I thought it was dry, but it wasn't fully dry. To take care of that, I take my wood, anything I put in there, including pine cones, if I pick them up off the street or whatever, I'll put them on a cookie sheet, stick them in my kitchen oven, and heat them up to about 220 degrees for a couple hours or so. And what that does is allow all that moisture in that wood to boil off, literally. Boiling point of water is 212 degrees. So you get up to 220, it'll boil all that water off and moisture off. Comes out pretty dry. Some of the other things like the walnut shells, and another one here is sweet gum pods, these little spiky things, sweet gum pods. I bought those through an online source called Exotic Wood. You know, you probably heard of them. Or exotic blanks, I guess they call them. And they recommend you soak them in denatured alcohol prior to using them. So that's what I do. Yes?
When you're turning, are you using the same tools you would use?
You can use your high-speed steel tools to turn this. I started using carbide tools, and I like the carbide tools for turning resin. I think they work great on resin, but they have to be sharp, and you know, but they do work great on resin. And as a result, I've been doing more resin work. I've kind of lost some of my touch with my high-speed steel tools, and I need to go back to the practice routine of turning some wood and so forth with my high-speed steel tools to get myself back into it. Yes, Ron?
Are you using negative rakes or flat top?
Both. I use the flat top to start out, and then when I start to, especially in the hollowing part of the bowl, I'll often end up with a little bit of chatter in there. I'll then go to the negative rake to try to smooth the chatter out, and it does work. I've got negative rake carbide tools, but I also have a big old high-speed Glenn Lucas French curve negative rake that I use a lot on the inside of my bowls because it covers a larger area and it just gets nice smoother surface inside than just the regular straight flat carbide tools. Carbide tools work great, and you got to take a real soft, delicate touch. You don't want to be trying to hollow it out and hog it out too fast, because you will get gouges, you will get chatter. So you just take it a little easier and just, so that's just the way I do it but I do use carbide a lot on resin. And I know I've got to order some more from Ron, more tool bits. Yes. Yeah, Ron? I'm having a hard time hearing what you're saying. The hot melt glue? To hold it in position? Oh, yeah, it depends on what you do. If you use it in a silicone mold, yeah.
He's talking about using hot glue to hold your wood pieces in place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I wouldn't do that on a silicone mold, no. I would on this. Yeah. No. Yeah, I do that right here on this. But this is just a kind of a melamine material with a shiny surface, which is used like a dry erase board. And I'll put hot glue on this, on the bottom of this, just to tack it in place. You really don't have to if you secure it properly with this bowl on top of it and then put the tape down. That'll secure it if you do that way. But I do sometimes put a little tab of hot melt glue on that. Now, I would never use it on something like this because it will. Oh yeah, on the wall. Yeah, here. Yeah, I don't glue them to the wall. I just put them in there and try to arrange them the best I can with them. Once I pour the resin in there, I try to arrange it with a bamboo barbecue skewer and try to push them around. This one here I use a lot for like the little miniature pine cones and stuff like that. I hot melt glue those pine cones in there, just the bottom level, to hold them in place, otherwise they all float to the top. So once I get the bottom level tacked in there with the hot melt glue, then I'll put some more on top of it, and those can float around a little bit. That's not a problem because I'm only going about 1 inch deep anyway for pen blanks. For anything like the deeper things, you just have to kind of organize it or hold it down with something like the bowl or whatever, just to secure it that way. If you start tacking it to the walls or something, you might, but this particular mold here I'm using here, you're destroying this when you get done with it. This mold will not exist anymore. You have to tear it apart to get your blank out of there. And I usually end up with about a blank that's got about a 1 inch thickness wall. And you start turning that away on your lathe. And at first it's a little rough because it's not exactly perfectly smooth. Once you get it turned smooth on the outside, it starts working better. So, and then one other thing I've learned also about doing resin, I like to put a finish on my resin because most of it, there's a lot of woody product in there. So for my pens, I use a CA glue finish on them, almost all of the pens with any kind of pine cones or anything in them. And it gives me a nice shiny, smooth surface I can sand and wet sand down to. A nice, even surface. For bowls, like this big one here or this one here, I used water locks. And I just applied water locks on the lathe with a sponge applicator and then just took as much of the excess off as I could and just let it rotate and try to dry. If I get a slow enough motor, which I have one now, I have to build a holder for it, get a slow enough motor and I can hook it to the lathe, I want to be able to turn it at, let's say, less than 30 RPM. If I can get around to about 10, 15 RPM, something like that. I might try the bar top finish, which self-levels. And you kind of put that on there and kind of brush it on there with a little sponge applicator or something, and then just let it slowly turn. And that stuff will self-level. I want to try that. I saw one guy online, Zach Higgins. I don't know whether you're familiar with Zach Higgins. He's from up around the Reno area of Nevada. He did that with a lamp, with a pine cone lamp he made by putting that bar top epoxy coating on it and just turning it slowly with a rotisserie motor and letting it kind of spread out and even out. And I also did that with epoxy like that was self-leveling to make build fishing rods when I treated the threads on the fishing rods. So you just slowly turn it and levels out. Yes. The coating, I did. Is it a coating or is it's actual casting resin? I've seen the coating. I used a fast drying coating from Aluminite once on a ice cream dipper handle. And because I couldn't turn it slow enough, it didn't level out the way I wanted to. So I ended up turning it all off and then applied a CA finish to the handle. But that's because I couldn't turn it slow enough, so it ended up a little bit uneven. Yes?
Are you sanding it all before putting any finishes on?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Question
yeah.
is, are you sanding before you
Yes,
put finishes on?
Yes, I am sanding before I sand up. When I'm doing the resin like this, I'll sand all the way up to 600 grit. Not more than that if I'm going to put a finish on it. Then what?
Do you have to use a finish?
I have used the finish, yeah.
Do you have to?
You don't have to. I like the looks of the finish. I think it gives it a little bit more shine. You don't have to. And you could actually just finish the resin and leave the wood natural if you wanted to. That's up to you.
Yeah, you can polish up to like a 2,000 grit or something.
Yeah, you could. It's just whatever you want it to look like. Me, I like shiny things, so I put the finish on, so that's what I do. Any other questions about that? Yes.
With a lot of the epoxies, they're not UV stable, is aluminum?
That's true. There's
The
some,
question was, is Aluminite
Yeah.
UV stable?
no, not always. Some of them are more resistant, depends. They'll tell you if they're UV resistant. I know Epodex that I looked at, I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to try it. Epodex Deep Pour claims to have some UV resistant properties to it. Aluminite Deep Pour, I don't think it has a lot of UV resistance to deep pour, or the regular urethanes do not have a lot of UV resistance. Now, I think there are some additives you can put in your resin to try to make it more UV resistant. I've not used them, so I'm not going to be able to tell you whether they work or not.
So is the UV supposed to prevent it from turning yellow after
It's
3 years?
supposed to protect it from the UV rays in the sun, yeah. That's why when I make these and I give them to anybody or sell them, I tell them, don't leave it out on your patio table in the direct sunlight. Not for long, anyway. You can do it for a little bit, because when you do see these in the sunlight, they sparkle because they're using pigment powders mostly. And they do sparkle, especially the black diamond dust that they sell here, Woodcraft. A lot of that stuff has a lot of glistening to it. So you get it under some bright light, you'll be surprised at just how much sparkle you get out of them. But they won't stay that way if you just keep them in the direct sunlight, and those UV rays start to work with them. Yes, sir. Ron?
I made some pieces 10, 12 years ago using clear. It's
Just clear?
not turned yellow.
Really? What would you use?
Aluminite, back then, they only had a couple different aluminites, and I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
But it has yellowed up. I was badly disappointed.
Yeah. I figured it would over time. I've had something I made with a white pigment powder that it didn't take very long. It started to show a little more yellowing on it. And
The Kalamazoo Wood Turning Guild, Bruce's group down there, they had a representative from Aluminite do a demonstration down there. And she said all their products yellow after 3 years.
yeah.
And it yellows on the shelf, like I have some older, it's turning yellow.
Right.
Does the same thing after you cast it. Do you think, is the UV protected supposed to stop that? Or is it's just the product yellow?
It should stop it, but, or at least slow it down.
Okay.
But I don't think they have a lot of UV inhibitors in the aluminite products. That's what I mean. That's why I said when I heard about Epodex says that they do have UV inhibitors in it. I'll try it and see how it works. So, anything else? Okay, well, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to make anything fancy because I've got to drive an hour, and I don't want this stuff sloshing around in my car. So I will make just a quick group of blanks here. What I do with these is I'll pour a 1-inch thick 4x5 blank, let it put it in the pressure pot. And this is Alumilite clear casting resin, which starts to set up in 7 minutes. And so that's why I'm not too worried about it in the pressure pot. It'll already start to solidify on the way home anyway, so not a big deal. If I want to make sure it doesn't stick, I'll put some the mold release in it. And that's what I'm just going to do right now. And because I'm just going to make a straight resin, I'm not going to do a hybrid today. Doing a hybrid would require me to glue all this stuff in and take up more of your time. But anyway, we'll start measuring this out, and I'm going to kick this on.
You're bleeding again.
Oh, am I? Oh, jeez. I had a little accident this morning unpacking my car. Hit my head. Wants to bleed on me once in a while. Think as old as I've gotten, you'd think I'd learn slow down and not be so stupid about things. So anyway. So what I'm going to do is to save myself time, because this is only a 7-minute working time. I have a little ocean blue in here. I'm going to pour this, just a couple drops in here. It doesn't take much. That's the dye. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And then I'm going to use a little of this diamond pearl.
So will that work then if you don't use a pressure pot? You just gotta leave it in longer? Or?
No, this particular stuff sets up too fast. You have to use a pressure pot or you'll end up with bubbles in it. The bubbles are still there in a pressure pot. It's just that the pressure pulverizes the bubbles down to a microscopic size, so you can't see them with the naked eye. That's the difference. A vacuum chamber would actually pull it out, but it's too quick setting for a vacuum chamber to work. This one here I will not treat yet with any kind of coloring until I actually mix up the resin. So to do that, I just turn on the kitchen scale. I've got it already set to grams. I know I'm going to need about 158, 157. I don't have anything else in it, so I'm probably going to take it up to about 160 if I can. This is, excuse me, part A. So I'm going to just pour that in there. Okay, I'm at 161 grams. And now I'm going to reset it to 0. Once I start mixing this up, I should Brought my pliers. Part B likes to stick sometimes. So then it's another 161 as I want to get to. Once I get up to mixing this up, I've got about a 7-minute working time, maybe less, because it depends on the temperature. The warmer the temperature, the shorter the work time. Whoop, I got this 164. Ooh, I overdid it. Simple. I just add a couple more of part A. Okay, now when you're mixing this stuff, and that goes with any of them, you want to make sure you mix it thoroughly. Scrape the sides, bottom, and everything. And you mix it until it comes out pretty clear. You can see the bottom. You'll see bubbles in it, but that's all right. And you just mix it best you can. And I stir it pretty fast because, like I said, I don't have a long working time with it. Whereas if I had a longer working time, I'd do it slower. I just pour a little of this clear stuff in each one of these. Okay, thank you. And now I'm going to put this just a little bit in here. This is Caribbean blue, diamond Caribbean blue, which is the one other thing. I brought some gloves for myself and then forgot to use them. And I want to mix it thoroughly. And that's what it looks like there. We're going to have this.
And if you don't mix it thoroughly, you get swirly, right? So that's an option.
Actually, you can swirl it anyway, but
Or you do that later when you
I do that later. One thing, this ocean blue tends to be a little bit opaque, so you can actually get some depth with it, which is interesting. And you see that in one of the pens out there where you have a little opaqueness to some of the dyes have that. So get this here. I often use, I guess I don't have any. All right. I haven't, like toothpicks or something small I can swirl things with, but I don't have them with me. But you can start pouring. You can do it any number of ways. You can pour them at once. I'm going to check the temperature. Let me check that. This is just a basic thermometer. I want to check the surface temperature of this resin. That's already at 101. That's at 99. That's at 100 and almost 101. So I'm going to start pouring this one in here. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And you can feel, when you pick up the cup, you can feel a little heat building up in there. And I can feel it starting to thicken up on me a little bit. Okay, thank you. That's at about 115 right now, so we're just gonna run these through. And you'll get a little swirly look like that in that. And I just take it and put it in the pressure pot. By the way, this little thing I have on the end of the hose is a moisture filter. Okay, that's at about 50 psi, maybe just under. As long as it's over 40 psi, that should be okay without the bubbles. But that's basically the simple way of just creating a pen blanks or something like that.
So why pressure cooker wouldn't work?
Pressure,
Pressure cooker,
it's not a pressure cooker, it's a pressure pot.
pressure pot.
Yeah.
Would it work?
When it works.
Would your wife's pressure pot work?
No, well, no, not a pressure cooker. No, you want something that's got, yeah, well, that one is, yeah, but you know what, you can go to Harbor Freight and buy one of these little pressure pots for like paint.
Oh, yeah, that'll work?
Those will work, you just have to adapt them for the valves and the stuff. Those are like about 2 gallons.
Oh, okay, I got one of those.
Yeah, you can convert those over, but just have to make sure you know what the safety level is as far as the pressure goes. This one here has a maximum pressure of 80 psi. What's that?
Did you say safety valve?
Well, they should have a safety valve on it, yeah. And that one does, this one does. It'll release if I go too high, but I only take it up to 60 maximum when I'm doing the bowls. If you have it up to over 40 for something like this, that's fine. So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's saying on YouTube, there's a video that shows exactly how to set up your Harbor Freight vacuum pot to work for resin.
Just be careful when you do it, and make sure you know what the safe level is for the pot, and don't go anywhere near that. Because because when you go too far, that thing is actually a little bomb, actually, so you don't want it to blow up on you.
Do you,
So-
what kind of lining do you have on the,
What kind of
what kind of lining do you have for safety on the inside of your pot for
Well,
spills?
There's no lining. I just put, I have a round wood disc because the pots are never flat on the bottom. It's kind of like concaved. So I turned a round disc out of birch plywood, half-inch birch plywood, put that down the bottom to flatten out the bottom when I put these things in there.
You've never had any spills from your molds?
Well, I've had spills, but that's why I put like a plastic trash bag down to bottom to line it.
Okay.
And then I usually will use wax paper too if I need to, right here. And that's just basically it. Any other questions? I like a lot of them.
Do you have a
Yeah,
go-to
your
pigment
go-to
you
resin,
like to use?
yeah. I like a lot of them. I've used a lot of black diamond, which they sell here at Woodcraft, only because I work part-time at Woodcraft in Vegas, So I got the employee discount. So that's why I bought a lot of them. But I bought through online, I bought like eye candy, and there's a lot of other brands out there. I like the eye candy a lot too, so that there's a lot of them out there that available. And I like using the pigment powders. I just like the way they look when they come out. But I do occasionally throw a dye or two in there and change things up. And sometimes the silver thing here, I'll put a little white dye in it to make it a little bit whiter and a little bit more solid. So that's just what I do. I do have a bunch of pen blanks I turned here. Most of these are hybrid, not all of them, but most of them are hybrid. Some of them have walnut shells. A couple of them I think have, or at least one of them has sweet gum pods in them. The walnut shells there. A lot of the small pine cones. Feel free to take one if you want to take them, however many you want, I don't care. And then I've got some knife scales I made with pine cones here too, so if you want to, anybody wants them, help yourself to them. So that's all I have. So, thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Jim.